Okay. Well, thank you everyone for listening to our presentation. My name is Kayla Oliver-Connelly.
I'm Steele Lindsey.
And I'm Tanner Steele.
And all the three of us, along with our fourth research partner, David Ullrey, have been conducting research over the past year on our project entitled Perfectionism, Fear of Failure, and the Relationship to Emotional Affect. So we wanted to answer the basic question of how do levels of perfectionism and fear of failure impact emotional affect in athletes? And Stephen is going to go into a little bit more of this right now.
So two major studies we based our research experiment on included Sagar and Stoeber's Perfectionism, Fear of Failure, and Affective Responses to Success and Failure, the central role of fear of experiencing shame and embarrassment, and Hill's Perfectionism and Burnout in Junior Soccer Players, a test of the 2x2 model of dispositional perfectionism. So in this case, perfectionism is a term used when a person holds his or herself to a higher standard than the people around them. And fear of failure is the degree that an individual avoids failing or is afraid of performing beneath a certain standard. So for this first background slide, we're going off Sagar and Stoeber's study saying that an individual's concern over mistakes and perceived coaching pressure increases their shame and embarrassment and negative affect after failure, which just means how bad they feel after they fail to attain a goal, such as failing to win a game or something similar. And then moving on, the second slide summarizes Hill's experiment, which suggested that individuals with higher scores on the perfectionism subscales measuring personal standards, which is the level a person holds themselves accountable for their actions, had lower burnout rates and a greater sense of accomplishment than participants who rated lower on personal standards. So overall, we based our experiment on the positive correlation between fear of failure and antisocial behavior among student athletes, which means that when analyzing student athletes, those that have a higher level of fear of failure tend to display antisocial behaviors. This also suggests that fear of failure has a negative impact on an individual's behavior, which means that having higher levels of fear of failure can have a negative impact on an individual's outward behavior. So moving on to our hypotheses, we predicted that the higher an individual scores on both fear of failure and perfectionism, the higher their negative emotional affect would be after imagining a negatively associated scoring scenario. And our second hypothesis predicted that the more years of experience an athlete has, the higher the levels of perfectionism and fear of failure would be expressed.
Okay, so we had two parts of our research study. The first part was based solely on our first semester of research. And then our second part of research was based on the combination of our first and second semester of gathering participants for our research. So the first section of our research included 40 participants, and all 40 of these participants were above the age of 18 and currently enrolled in a psychology course at Carroll College in order to participate in our study. We used 3 different scales to measure our perfectionism, fear of failure, and positive and negative affect. The first one that we used is the Performance Failure Appraisal Inventory. And this is actually pictured here on this slide. We used this subscale in order to measure fear of failure in our participants. We also used the Sport Multidimensional Perfectionism Scale. And this is the scale that is used to measure perfectionism in our participants. And the last scale that we used is called the Positive and Negative Affect Scale, or the PANAS scale. And this is what we used in order to measure the positive and negative affect that our participants felt. So upon arriving at our study, participants first self-reported their years of experience and were divided into 3 groups based on their participation. These groups included beginner, which had a 0 to 10 years of experience, intermediate, which is 11 to 19 years of experience, and advanced, which is 20 plus years of experience. We were dividing these into the total number of years of experience of a combination of sports that the participants were involved in. So for example, if a person has 5 years of experience in track, 5 years of experience in baseball, and 5 years of experience in basketball, they would have a combined total of 15 years of experience and then be placed in our intermediate category. Participants next completed the Performance Failure Appraisal Inventory, as well as the Sport-MPS. Participants were then exposed to 2 imagined sporting scenarios. The first sporting scenario depicted a success in sports competition, and the second scenario depicted a failure in sports competition. The order in which participants received these 2 scenarios was randomly assigned. And finally, participants completed the PANS after hearing the first scenario and again after hearing the second scenario.
Here you can see a summary of our significant results from our first semester of research. And basically we found significant results in the categories of shame and embarrassment, fear of upsetting important others, fear of failure, concern over mistakes, and doubts about action. This graph shows, again, you can see that our significant results were found in concern over mistakes and doubts about action, as indicated by the asterisks above those sections of the graph. And then you can see that in concern over mistakes and doubts about action, the beginner and intermediate are significantly higher than the advanced, which is depicted in the yellow. And then again on this graph, the significant results are indicated by the asterisks above the sections. So you can see we found significant results in fear of experiencing shame and embarrassment, fear of upsetting important others, and general fear of failure. This graph shows that our manipulation worked.
Okay, so launching into our second round of results, these included all of the participants from both our first semester of research and our second semester of research. In total, this included a number of 66 participants, and again, all of these participants were above the age of 18 and currently enrolled in a psychology course at Carroll College in order to participate in our study.
In this slide, you can see that this is a summary of our results from both of our semesters of research. So both of our semesters combined, we found significant results in concern over mistakes, doubts about action, and organization. This graph represents our Sport-MPS subscales for differing levels of participation in sports for both of our semesters of research. So as you can see, combined, both of our semesters, we found that concern over mistakes, doubts about actions, and organization showed significant results. And then for the PFAI, we found for both semesters of research, no significant results. And then this, again, is to show that our manipulation was effective. So with our research from both semesters, we found that individuals who showed a higher level of general fear of failure also showed a higher level of negative affect after a failure scenario. This graph shows that for both of our semesters of research, we found that individuals who scored higher for concern over mistakes showed both lower positive affect in the failure scenario as well as higher negative affect in the failure scenario. And then this graph shows that for both of our semesters of research, individuals who scored higher on fear of upsetting important others also scored higher for positive affect after hearing a success scenario.
So in total, or in conclusion, we found that our results show that advanced athletes actually scored the lowest on certain subscales regarding anxiety to the possibility of humiliation, as well as fear of upsetting people perceived as important to the individual. Advanced athletes also scored the lowest on the subscale regarding the general fear of failure, while intermediate experienced athletes scored the highest. And advanced athletes also scored the lowest in subscales, analyzing worry regarding potential consequences resulting from mistakes made. These results all go against previous research. In conclusion, our results show that this supports the idea that advanced athletes actually may have more confidence and are less likely to be influenced by anxiety. And like I said, this actually goes against previous research.
So moving on, you can see that previous research shows the importance of separating perfectionism in sports from overall self-confidence in athletes with higher levels of experience in competition. Furthermore, our results suggest that this is important in both beginner and intermediate level athletes as well, and not just for advanced individuals. And furthering the results of our research study, we suggest that educating coaches and other leaders on the relationship between fear of failure, perfectionism, and their effects on emotion could prevent low self-worth and lead to a positive impact on overall mental health, especially for individuals who have competed in a variety of sports.
This is a compiled list of all of our references that we used for this presentation. Thank you for listening today to our presentation. If you have any questions about our research, please do not hesitate to contact me or any of my fellow researchers. Thank you.